Hello, I'm Luke, and today I have a mission for you, should you choose to accept it. And this mission is going to likely take you further on your spiritual journey than you've ever been before. What could this mission possibly be? Well, it's the independent investigation of truth. Now, all jokes aside, this mission that I'm talking about today is an idea which is one of the key principles within the Baha'i faith, and something that's really sparked my attention when I've been looking at my own spiritual journey. And the reason for this supposed mission is it's actually led me to today's question, which is the most important reason we're here. And the question that I have for you is, what do you require in the search for truth? So if I'm talking about an independent investigation of truth, I'm looking at how do we excel ourselves on our spiritual journey by constantly asking questions, by constantly seeking more. There's been plenty of examples in history where we have been in a position where we have simply sat back and been told what the answers are. And a lot of the new way of thinking is, and the new way forward, I should say, especially when it comes to certain revelations, is that it's down to the individual to seek this truth. So thinking in that way, that we now have our own independent investigation of truth to undertake. My question was, well, what do you require for that? What do we have to practically do to search for that truth? What does that even mean? What does that look like? Well, to add some context to it, I'm just going to read firstly a quote from Abdu'l-Baha from his Paris talks, and it's quite a long quote, but I'm going to read to you, and this is quite a long section, but I'm going to read it to you because it adds a lot of context to what we're talking about here. If 5 people meet together to seek for truth, they must begin by cutting themselves free from all their own special conditions and renouncing all preconceived ideas. In order to find truth, we must give up our prejudices, our own small, trivial notions. An open, receptive mind is essential. If our chalice is full of self, there is no room in it for the water of life. The fact that we imagine ourselves to be right and everybody else wrong is the greatest of all obstacles in the path towards unity. And unity is necessary if we would reach truth, for truth is one. I think this is really profound, and I was really taken by these words because I loved this idea where even from spiritual texts we're being told you need to drop all of your preconceived ideas and you need to go out and you need to empty your cup basically and try and search for a way to fill it with things that really matter to you, things that are fulfilling, things that you've been able to pull apart and understand a little further. I mean, looking at this one where it's saying you need to have an open, receptive mind, that's even a way of then removing out of your mind different ideas that you thought maybe, and maybe still you'll find are in your world, in your reality, truth, but in order to confirm that, you almost need to take them out first. So I was really taken by this, and I love this, and this idea of searching for truth. It's maybe a little bit more philosophical. I started looking at it from a scientific perspective, and when we start delving into the world of truth, it's more around psychology in terms of our capacity to perceive and understand. And there's a few different things that came up, and what I did from looking at the information, I guess, in a spiritual text, and then also looking at it from a scientific perspective, where we start looking at the ways our brains work. So in terms of having a rational thinking capacity versus, say, typical thinking, which is a capacity to think out the box versus the capacity to only think within your existing world. And I started thinking about this a little bit further and going, do you know what? I reckon there's a few different ways that I, maybe without knowing every single day, have created, I guess, some values or theories that I use naturally to seek my truth. So I did my own little research and I've come up with 4 key values, let's call them, that I use personally in my search for truth. And so I'm going to share them with you, and in the hope of that you'll be able to have a think about, well, what do you do, and how can you think of your ways to search for truth. So number 1 is rational thinking. So I just mentioned it then, but the reason rational thinking is so important is the capacity to be able to think outside the box, but there's a whole process behind it. You could go through and have a look at all the different research that's on it. But to put it in a nutshell, rational thinking is your capacity to kind of take a range of information. So for me, source really matters. And so going through a range of information, everything from experience and opinions, people's facts, data, and pulling them all together in order to process them and then be able to find kind of a sound conclusion at the end of it. That's the point of it. Rational thinking, in my understanding, is almost the capacity to look at a range of different things, process them through, and find something that you can almost go to a call to action on, something that you can kind of feel like you can come to some level of conclusion with, and knowing that your data is quite varied from there as well. So for me, number one is this capacity for rational thinking. So I actively ensure that I am always rationally thinking outside of the box, taking in as much information as I can, and being aware of the source. I'm just going to make a really quick side note. Source matters. So when you are going through and looking at things, specifically even scientific information, look at the journal, look at where the information is coming from. Sometimes they're backed by organizations that are simply trying to get their point across. This matters as well. That's why a variety of information matters. So number one, rational thinking is key to my requirement for my search for truth. Number two, I'm going to call it gut instinct. And I think of this thing as gut instinct as that, that feeling inside, when you look at something and go, oh, something just doesn't feel right. Listen to that. This has got me to where I am right now, and I live by it because I swear this is our connection to our higher self. This is our connection to information maybe we can't quite process here, but we just almost kind of innately know is the truth in it. So gut instinct is so important when you're on your search for truth, because sometimes you have to look at stuff, and even though everyone's saying, yeah, that's the answer, if it doesn't feel right for you, it simply doesn't feel right. So is it your truth? Maybe not. So gut instinct is super important. Number three for me is to stop seeking finality. So there's a real notion to seek finality. We all like to find something and put it again in a box and kind of say, that's it, that's the answer. Can we all just leave it alone for now? And I think that idea of seeking finality is detrimental to our search for truth. And so we need to stop doing that. However, we do need to seek to accept. So we don't seek finality, but we accept that the information we receive at that time, if we are accepting as truth, is truth in that moment. And we can all look back over time and see from between now and 50 years ago how much all of our information changes in terms of our capacity to grow and evolve. So finality doesn't exist. It's just this thing that we've formed in our head within this space-time existence of human reality. It's not there, right? So I believe because it's not there, it's not helpful in our requirements for searching for truth. And the final one is remain youthfully curious. And I love this one. And the reason I do is because I really hope when I'm 80 and, doing whatever I'm doing, I still have my same youthful curiosity, that sense of asking why and wonder and wanting to know more. There's too often where all of us kind of get complacent with what our answers are and think, yeah, I've got it, I don't want to search for any more. But I feel like if we want to continue to search for truth, and I feel like if I want to continue to do it, I need to remain youthfully curious. And I love that one. So for me, these four things, I thought, okay, well, my question to everyone is, what do you require in the search for truth? I believe what you require is rational thinking, a connection to your gut instinct, the capacity to stop seeking finality, but accept what you find, and remain youthfully curious along the way. And for me, these four things kind of sum up what I've done to date and what I continue to do, and I feel are really great tools on my search for truth. But your mission, as I said, is the independent investigation of truth, and your question is, what do you require in the search for that truth? I would love to hear your thoughts. Have a conversation with someone. I know it's a slightly complex question, but there's real validity to it. There's so much we can take from seeking our own version of truth. And I really feel like this is what's going to help to propel us forward, instead of listening to what we think we should be told and rather seeking to what we know deep down inside of us feels right. And this is a really big shift in consciousness and in the way that we've worked before. So I get really passionate about it. I think it's a fantastic idea, but I'd love to hear your voice and hear your comments and what you think about this. So please comment, share, speak with your friends, continue the conversation, and let me know, what do you require in the search for truth?